Mom, I haven't done my pooping session. So can you do part 2? Until I finish my session, please, Mom.
Go on a field trip as well. On the train ride, Rio brought out the pack of sweets he had carried along, and he decided to share it among the students, telling them to take one and pass it on to the next person. When it was Honda's turn, he decided to take one as well, and all the students were surprised that he was going along with the game. But when he noticed all the eyes staring at him, Honda quickly spat out the candy, while they all wondered what made him change his mind. 3 students from Shiro High School walked into their cabin, so Akin got up and blocked their path, saying that they should all get lost. The buff guy in the group, Jimoto, told him to get out of their way, and while they were talking, Honda's candy slipped and landed on Jimoto's hair, causing him to get angry and almost pound Honda with his fists. However, Ikemiya walked in to stop him from attacking Honda, and he apologized to all of them for causing so much trouble, which made all the girls blush and giggle because of how charming he was. Asking who the pretty boy was, Aizawa told Akin that Ikemiya was the most popular student at the Shiro High School, and that just like Honda, he was considered the king of their school. When they arrived at the site of the field trip, the students were told to tour the place and return before curfew, and along the way Honda and his classmates came across a fortune teller. They decided to pay a small fee to know what the future had in store for them, and everyone was eager to know what Honda's fortune said. But then they were rudely interrupted by the students from Shiro High. They wanted to make Honda look inferior in front of Ikemiya, and they succeeded in this as Ikemiya's fortune slip had all the blessings in the world. But unknown to the other students, this was all planned by his rotten classmates. Later that night, all the students retired to their rooms to sleep, with Honda and his friends having a room to themselves. But while they were asleep, they noticed that something fell in through the window. Turning on the lights, they were shocked to see that it was a creepy doll, and Akin was convinced that Ikemiya and his group were behind this, so he suggested that they teach them a hard lesson. But to their surprise, Honda was fast asleep, so they decided to follow his example and go back to bed, concluding that he would have wanted them to remain calm in situations like this. The next morning, the students continued their tour of the island, and Honda came across a group of hopeless romantic girls being led by Ikemiya, and he decided to follow them for no reason. The girls begged Ikemiya to allow them to take a photo with him, and Mr. Handsome agreed. But when it was finally Honda's turn, Ikemiya gave him a costume to wear, claiming that it was a way to make the event more fun. But unknown to him, while they were busy taking photos, Ikemiya secretly stuck a piece of candy on Honda's hair as a way of paying him back for what he did to Jimoto on the train. So when it was time for him to take off the costume, Honda found it very difficult because the candy had glued his hair together with the fabric. But luckily Kondo arrived to help him out. Later that night, Honda escorted Kondo to the gift shop to get a present for his crush. But when he spotted Ikemiya's crew downstairs, he quickly tried warning Honda, but the dumbass had already vanished. While looking at the cool items in the gift shop, Honda came across a stylish pen and wanted to get one for himself. But it fell under the table, and when he tried getting it out, his hand got stuck like in the Akalafa movie. As he struggled to pull his arm out, Jimoto and his guys noticed this, so they helped him, and Honda got up to thank them, but Kondo quickly pushed him away before they realized who he was. However, Ik and his crew were confused with what had just happened, and when they asked Kondo if he had seen Honda, he pointed at a random dude from afar to make them leave the gift shop. Then he rushed towards Honda, who was still trying to recover, and apologized for pushing him to the floor. But when Kondo saw Kamichi walking towards them, he quickly covered Honda's face with a trash bag. Kamichi warned Kondo not to get in the way of Ikemiya and his plans. But Kondo tried telling him that Honda wasn't actually a bad person and that what happened in the train was just a mistake. However, Kamichi just laughed at his silly words, and he said that he couldn't wait to see who would emerge victorious in terms of popularity between Ikemiya and their useless Honda. The next day, Ikemiya met up with Honda and asked him if he ever got tired of living up to people's expectations. But Honda said that he didn't have any idea what he was talking about. Regardless of this, Ikemiya stretched his hands towards him, asking if they could be friends. But Honda said that it would be weird if he became friends with someone as popular as him, and that he already had great friends in his class. His words made Ikemiya realize that he had people who cared about him all along, but had always seen them as inferior. And so he apologized for treating them like subjects rather than his true companions. However, Kamichi wasn't happy that Ikemiya was backing out of the fight, so he decided to take matters into his own hands. But as he ran forward to attack Honda, Kondo slapped him in the face. Ikemiya quickly stepped in to apologize for his friend's behavior, and he said that there would be no more rivalry between both of their schools. But nobody noticed that Handa was literally floating face down on the lake. Back at their school, the board had just denied Mr.
Akeyama from ever doing dissections on frogs in the biology practical class due to all the complaints they had received from parents. Annoyed with the decision, he met with Honda and Aizawa at the hallway and tried persuading them to collect signatures from students in order to bring back the dissection part of the practicals. Akeyama was sure that Honda's popularity would help change the minds of the students, and even though Honda didn't quite like the dissections as well, he wasn't brave enough to say no to his teacher. When they got to the classroom, Aizawa stood in front of the class to address the students, and he told them the importance of taking part in the frog dissection. But the class was divided as many students still didn't like the idea. They called on Honda to hear his opinion, and in order not to disappoint Mr. Akeyama, he told them that he was going to take part in the dissection practical, so they all signed the petition to bring back the dissection program. On the day of the dissection, Mr. Akeyama was so happy that he decided to give Honda a hug to show his appreciation. But Honda's frog slipped out from his hands, resulting in a minor accident. Suddenly, all the frogs started escaping from their jars, and they leaped around the classroom, causing the students to freak out and run for safety. And then the teacher noticed that Akane was bleeding. However, Akane told everyone to listen closely as Honda began to speak like he had been possessed by a frog, saying that the dissection was a very cruel thing to perform on a bunch of innocent frogs. Touched by his words, Akeyama and his students released the frogs back into the river, and while they were on the field they collected flowers for a herbarium preparation instead. Akeyama realized that he had been making a mistake all along, as he wanted the students to learn kindness through the art of dissection. But they were able to learn it on their own without harming the frogs. Honda regained consciousness at the clinic, and when school was over he walked back home. But Aizawa decided to follow him around secretly in order to make sure he got home safely. However, after a few minutes Honda suddenly ran off, which made Aizawa believe that someone was stalking him, even though he was literally the one following him around from the shadows. At the Honda Force headquarters, Aizawa told the others about his suspicions, and they came up with a strategy to catch whoever it was that was actually stalking Honda. So when school was over the next day, they split themselves into two groups, with each one secretly hiding along the routes that lead to Honda's house so that they could track the culprit on all sides. Fortunately for Aizawa and Kondo, Honda took the road they were covering, so they secretly followed, but Kondo suggested they walk with him instead so as not to be mistaken for the stalkers themselves. However, Aizawa told him that the Honda Force operated from the shadows, but while they were arguing about it, they heard a sound in the bushes and immediately thought that it was the stalker. But just as they were about to attack, Miyoko got out of the bush, and Kondo said that she was the stalker because of how shady she looked. But Aizawa told him that she was helping them to look after Honda as well. He said that Miyoko went by the name Eraser now because she was taking care of girls who were too obsessed with Honda and making them disappear forever like an eraser. Kasumi was on her way to Honda's house to give him some new romance novels that she had ordered, but when Miyoko noticed this she quickly trapped her using her cowgirl lasso. Meanwhile, Yuki and Aizawa kept following Honda, but they soon lost track of him as he ran as fast as he could. So Aizawa immediately used his hand to blow a whistle signaling Dash to chase after him. But despite his speed, Dash was still unable to catch up to him, so he came back to give them the bad news. And while they were trying to figure out where Honda was, Ryo and Akane joined them looking all jacked up. Asking them what happened, the guys told Aizawa that they had been tricked by the stalker who locked them up in a dog cage and allowed an angry mutt to chew them up like toys. Miyoko joined them, and while they were thinking of a better strategy, Honda tried to jump the fence but was shocked to see them on the other side as he thought that they had given up already. But instead of running this time around, Honda stood his ground and he shouted at them to stop following him around like a bunch of creeps, as he was already late to meet the only friend that he ever had. Honda was shocked with this statement, and he realized that they were the actual stalkers, but Aizawa was still delusional, and he urged the rest of them to keep searching until they had found the real stalker. Later that day, Kondo noticed that everyone was gossiping about him, and this made him feel very insecure, so he went to meet Ryo for help in improving his self-esteem. Ryo invited him to have fun with some of the girls there, but Yuki wasn't interested, and he sat bound to read his favorite book instead. But while he was reading, he noticed a letter on his table with a heart-shaped sticker on it. Kondo immediately concluded that it was a love letter, and when he opened it, he saw that it was from a girl named Maki who said that he should meet her behind the gym after school. Kondo began to wonder if it was a real love letter or just a prank. But when he met Akane about it, the moron said that it was a challenge and that he should be ready to fight for his life like a man. But when Aizawa read the letter, he said that it was actually a love letter, because Maki was not the type of person to play pranks on people, but that she was just a 5 out of 10 at most in terms of beauty. Ryo told Kondo to celebrate because it was going to be the biggest day of his life, and he helped him style his hair to look good, while Aizawa suggested that he should get the girl some flowers to make things romantic. Everyone kept staring at Kondo, and he thought that he was becoming popular because of the Handa force, so he happily set out to meet his future girlfriend at the back of the gym. However, when he got to the spot, Maki said to his face that he was just an average student, and that he should stop pretending like he was part of the Handa force because no girl would ever love him. Her confession felt like an arrow to the chest, causing Kondo's heart to shut down completely. So his friends quickly surrounded him, doing all that they could to cheer him up and make him forget about Maki. But to their surprise, Kondo calmly said he always knew it would end this way, because there was no chance in hell that an average student like him could end up with someone as hot as Maki. He tried maintaining his composure, but eventually lost control and ran away. And when his friends realized that he wasn't okay, they quickly chased after him. While thinking about leaving the Handa force, he bumped into Handa, who remembered him as the guy that had knocked him down during the field trip. But Kondo noticed the flowers he was holding, and he asked him what he planned on doing with them. Handa replied saying that he was going to harass people with them. But Kondo knew that he was just trying to act tough, so he gave him a gift card to apologize for attacking him the other day. He continued walking and met up with his friends, who were happy to see him back to his happy self. But what they didn't know is that it was Honda's weird and shy nature that made Kondo feel more secure about himself. However, when Handa opened the card that Kondo gave him, he accidentally smudged the letters on the page, which made it spell out the word Jackens, and Handa hated Kondo even more for tricking him. In another part of school, a group of artistic guys known as the Hentai Comic Club spent all of their time drawing mangas of cute girls. But they were never able to sell any copies of their books. Aizawa arrived at the studio to tell the boys that because their club was the most useless creation in the entire school, they were no longer going to receive funding from the student council. Asking Aizawa why their precious club was being terminated, he told them that it was because the club hadn't been able to make any money for the school. While pointing to a stack of unsold manga that had been sitting around for ages, the guys said that it wasn't their fault people didn't like to read manga, so Aizawa advised them to make one about Handa since he was the most popular guy in school, although they would need to get his permission first. They were so excited by his suggestion that they kicked him out and sat down to discuss how to go on with the plan. But then they remembered that it was against their club rules to draw anything except for cute girls. The fat guy in the group suggested that they should turn Handa into a cute girl and see if it would work. But they found it difficult to create an exact character design of Handa as he was always alone and had no friends. So the club president Mio proposed that each of them interview Handa separately and come up with their own unique ideas, after which they would compare all 3 mangas and choose the best one to get published. Mio went to the hallway where Handa was walking alone, and in order to expose his true nature, Neo pulled out a doll dressed up in a bikini, and he tried using it to seduce Handa, confused by the puppet show. Handa said that the doll looked beautiful, but when Neo tried making him take the doll's skirt off, Handa used his napkin to cover her up, saying that all women deserve to be treated with respect. When he heard Handa say those words, Neo felt guilty for treating his doll like a cheap hoe, and he apologized to her, promising that he would create a decent manga of Handa to honor his kindness. After a week passed, the club members gathered to present their work to each other, but when Fat Joe revealed his manga, the others were shocked to see his version of female Handa with her plot armor wide open. Neo was pissed to see Honda's pure nature tainted by his hentai images, so he punched Captain Eye Patch to the ground. But because he wanted them to accept his story, Daddy Diabetes punched Neo in the face as well. The smallest guy in the club, Takoyaki, interrupted their argument by showing them his own version of the comic, which was about an intergalactic love story. But Neo also hated his idea and punched him down as well. He told them to forget about jiggly body parts for once and focus on the decency of human life. But Plus Science and Takoyaki accused Neo of trying to bend the rules of their precious club. He apologized for turning his back on their hentai tradition, but Neo told them to give other writing styles a try, and he showed them his version of the comic portraying Handa as a kind character with an uplifting backstory. Dazzled by the brilliance of his work, the others agreed that Neo's version was the best, but then they accidentally dropped it together with the old mangas, which Handa later came to collect as part of the recyclable trash. When the guys met Aizawa in the hallway, they were so excited to show him what they had come up with. But to their surprise, the Honda comic book wasn't on the table and had been thrown out with the rest of the old trash. Terrified that their manga was gone forever, they tried running after the garbage truck to retrieve it, and when Honda overheard their conversation, he realized he was the one who had mistakenly thrown their artwork away. Before the guys could even go far, they got tired of running and dropped to the ground. But just then, someone breezed past them at top speed, and they were shocked to see that it was Honda who was chasing after the truck. He managed to make the vehicle come back, and as the boys went through all the papers to find their manga, some sheets flew into the air which contained some of their prototype manga. Honda caught one of them that Professor Piggy had made, and when he looked at it, his eyes almost popped out of their sockets to see the page featuring a female version of himself dripping in a sexy plot armor. A few months passed, and it was almost time for the next school festival, so the council president decided to kick off the celebration by changing the name of the occasion to the Honda Festival. However, the students weren't exactly happy with this name change, and although she tried bringing up different excuses, they all knew that Sawako was only doing all this to impress her crush Honda. Aizawa suggested to his classmates that they do everything they could to win the best award at the festival, and while Rio said that they dress up as maids, Akane said that they should host a boxing tournament instead. However, the girls wanted to perform Romeo, and Juliet and Rio quickly agreed to this because he had always wanted to dress up as Juliet since he was a child, and Kondo wondered why he would want such a thing. Since they couldn't settle on an idea, they left the final decision to Honda because he was their class rep and gave him 3 options to choose from. The pressure started to give Honda a headache, and when Kondo noticed this, he tried helping out by suggesting that they add one more option. But this only made Honda more confused. Honda accidentally blurted out that he wanted the game where boys dressed up as girls, and the class girls became super excited. But when he realized his mistake, Honda panicked and ran for his dear life. As he sat by the stairs thinking about what to do, Sawako met him and offered him some advice, telling him to be more of a dictator and choose what he wanted without worrying about what others thought. However, Honda was more confused by her new hairstyle. But she asked him to help with the murals for the festival using his artistic skills, and Honda agreed to work his ass off for free. Before leaving, Sawako reminded him to have a firm will, and with a newfound determination he marched back to his class with his arms wide open, only to find the room empty as everyone had left. Aizawa said that the class had made their decision without him, and the next day when Honda wanted to help out, he told him to just sit down and chill, but Honda thought that they just wanted him out of the way. His suspicions were confirmed when his classmates left him alone at school, and Honda was pissed off that none of them had tried to wake him up, and while he was staring at a cat outside, a group of thugs tried to attack him. Luckily, the Honda force showed up to protect him, and the next day when roles for the play were assigned, Rio argued that he wanted to be Juliet, but Aizawa said that Akane should do it because he had more junk in the trunk. Tondo noticed that he had been given the role of a commoner with no dialogue, and when Honda asked about his role, Aizawa told him to sit and watch because they had planned something very special for him. The girls were ready to sacrifice pieces of their hair to make a wig for Honda's character, while the boys were busy trying to act like him, but Honda was sad that he couldn't have fun with his classmates. The festival had finally arrived, and while Kawafuji was helping out in the artwork section, he and Kisukawa decided to check out what Honda's class was doing, and they ordered some drinks as they settled in to watch the play. The drama began with Rio playing Romeo, while Akane took on the role of Juliet, and as the both of them embraced, the audience realized that Romeo was about to get crushed by Juliet's large body. However, they joined in the fun with musicals, and as Romeo was spun in the air, King Lear appeared looking all troubled by the chaos, and he said some wise words, which made Juliet drop Romeo and drink a bottle of poison. When Romeo woke up, he was heartbroken to see the love of his life dead, and though the audience urged him to focus on healing his heart, Romeo refused to listen to their words, and he decided to die with her. But just then, things took a turn as Othello from another story crossed into the wrong universe and interrupted the scene, altering reality and causing Juliet to come back to life while holding Romeo back. However, Queen Elizabeth appeared to calm everyone down, and Kawafuji was shocked to see that it was Honda who was given the role of the imperial leader of England. Meanwhile, Honda wondered what he was doing up there, especially since he wasn't given any lines to say at all, and he became more embarrassed when he noticed that Kawafuji was watching him. He felt like the earth should open up and swallow him, and when he couldn't take it anyone. Honda got up and ran off the stage with his fans wildly following behind him. While the Honda force was taking a break outside, some students came to tell them that Honda was in trouble as thugs from Kurohai were all over the place looking for him. But the Dundas was busy snacking in a quiet corner. The gangsters went around asking everyone for Honda's whereabouts, and just when they thought they had found him, the thugs were shocked to see that it was just his look-alike. And then many Honda clones started showing up from nowhere. Their leader Rai managed to catch Kay and said that he should tell them where Honda was or they would chop his balls off. But Kay said that nothing would ever make him betray Honda. However, while he was still talking, Dash arrived and stupidly revealed that Honda was in the 7th grade classroom, so Rai and the other thugs quickly rushed over to find him. On their way there, they met up with Tsugumi, who warned them that something terrible was coming their way. And after using her lens to look into Rai's palm, she said that his entire life was going to be filled with darkness. Scared by her creepy predictions, the guys quickly ran away, but when Nyoko and Kasumi heard that a bunch of thugs were after Honda, they decided to join forces to defeat them. At the same time, Kay met up with Aizawa and the others to warn them that Rai and his group of savages had discovered Honda's location, and he said that they should hurry if they really wanted to save him. Ikemiya and his crew also arrived at the festival, and they looked forward to seeing the Romeo and Juliet show. But backstage, Honda was thinking of other ways to improve his role rather than just sitting down in an old lady's costume. Rai and his gangsters arrived looking for Honda but couldn't find him anywhere because he was hiding inside the castle prop. And when he heard their voices, he thought the play had started and began to rehearse his lines. The thugs sat down waiting for Honda to show up, but when Ikemiya and his crew arrived, things got so tense that Jimoto lost control and punched one of the guys in the face, causing everyone to start fighting. Meanwhile, Honda covered his ears waiting for the signal to come out, and when Aizawa and the others barged into the room causing a loud bang, Honda broke out of his fake castle ordering everyone to stop fighting. However, he went back inside feeling shy for coming out too soon, and everyone felt bad about what had happened, so Rai and his guys said that they had actually come to respect Honda and not hurt him, because ever since he had scared the shit out of them in front of Akane's house, Rai and his crew no longer had the courage to rule the streets like before, so they all decided to surrender to Honda instead. Ikemiya and his guys also apologized for picking a fight with them for no reason. But as they were talking, they noticed that Rai was lying lifeless on the ground because Miyoko and her new protege had knocked him out. Later that night, as the festival came to an end, Sawako thanked everyone for participating and making it a memorable experience, and she said that it was time to give out the awards. She started with the award for Best School Club, which went to Neo, and the guys from the Hentai Comic Club for selling 5,000 copies of their Honda manga in a single day. When it was time to announce the award for Best Class Performance, everyone was eager to hear which class would get the award, and Sawako said that Honda's class had won it for their Romeo and Juliet drama. As the class rep, Honda was asked to step forward to collect the award. But he was so scared of everyone humiliating him for no reason that he started trembling when he got up to the stage. But just as he was about to receive the crown, Kalafuji appeared and demanded they give it to him instead, saying that his class deserved it more because their performance was way better. Sawako quickly placed the crown on Honda's head, saying that it belonged to no one else but him, so Kalafuji told Honda to hand the crown over because he was the only true friend he had. Everyone in the crowd got pissed that he was trying to take the spotlight away from Honda, so they began to throw things around and start a riot, causing Honda to think that they wanted to bully him off the stage. However, Kalafuji told him to take a closer look at the crowd and how people were actually cheering for him, and this made him realize that nobody had actually hated him from the start and that it was all in his mind. With this new outlook on life, Honda took off the crown, saying that it actually belonged to everyone at the festival, and his words filled up the arena with so much light that it felt like night had turned into day. Sawako was impressed by Honda's humility, and she revealed his grand prize, which was a giant Honda parade float. But Honda was creeped out by how much everyone in school worshipped him. Aizawa and the others encouraged him to ride on the parade float, but just when Honda was about to do it, he noticed that the parade float was on fire, and that he probably might have died if he took their advice. But everyone admired the parade float as it burned to the ground like a majestic phoenix, and the next day at school, Honda was finally able to relate with his classmates and make some new friends.